Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend.
Yeah, it's Mozz.
Hey Mozzie, so glad you're here. Oh my goodness, the last episode of this season, season 1, episode 9. Right, 9?
Yep.
9, yes. What if, Mozz, what if the Watcher broke his oath?
Wow.
The Watcher gathers heroes from across the multiverse for one final battle against Infinity Ultron. Our director this week, none other than Brian Andrews. AC Bradley, of course, that's our head writer. Matthew Chauncey, he's our story editor. Of course, Steve Englehart created. Oh, it's also AC Bradley. He gets our written by credit this week because he is working so hard. He's got 2 jobs this week. Hardest working man in show business, AC Bradley. Steve Englehart and Steve Gunn created the character of Star-Lord. Captain America was created, of course, by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. Jim Starlin gave us Gamora. And such an episode, Mozz, such an episode. We open. We open with the Lemurian Star.
Yes, where the thing is being forged, right? The gauntlet.
No. We open on the Lemurian Star. Remember, so as we open in what is effectively the start of Winter Soldier, but Peggy.
Oh, God! Right.
Yes, because it's Peggy and Black Widow during that whole scene, and they make the reference to Bernard in accounting, as opposed to I forget her name in Human Resources, but yes, Bernard in we love Black Widow. She's always trying to fix people up, almost suspiciously so. I'm gonna say it.
What do you think her ulterior motive is?
Well, I think in the same way with Cap is, you gotta put a honeypot there. You gotta get someone in to keep tabs on the super soldier.
Oh.
Let's not forget super soldiers, they like to disobey orders. They do? Yeah, well, Peggy Carter certainly disobeyed her first order to not get into the dang thing. Disobey the direct order!
Maybe she's putting it out there like, come on, can somebody set me up?
Maybe. Although, I think that I'm going to be honest with you. I think she has probably been hurt a lot and probably is not looking to get set up.
That's probably true.
I mean, if I'm really honest about the Black Widow's history, I think, she does not want to be set up. She would. But then again, if she truly didn't believe that was a good thing, she wouldn't try to do it for people that she cared about. So deep down inside, there's a piece of her that still believes it's a good thing, and maybe she's waiting to be, convinced of it. I don't know. But it seems like there's something there. Nobody spends that much time trying to do this for other people if they didn't think it was a good thing. Yeah. And, I did enjoy this start because, of course, it gives us the exact same situation we see on the Lemurian Star. Although, as you see at the end, the cargo is a little different this time. But I liked her little battle with Batroc. That was fun. And
nice to have GSP
honestly, Yes, he's always, he's good in the role, and I'm glad. I hope they keep him. I hope they give him his nice fancy mustache next time. We're going places with these costumes now. Have you seen the Eternals? We've got our full on Celestials. We are 5 minutes from Galactus. They're ready. They're ready to just, you watch. Next time he's gonna have a mustache more luxurious than mine.
So we know what I found interesting about this episode. Like somebody said, like the Watcher is supposed to be sort of like something we can see ourselves in as the audience. We're the Watchers too. So like, if this episode is like, what if the Watcher broke his oath? Imagine if they built some sort of a scenario where they let the internet vote on something like who should the Watcher help or whatever, or what should the Watcher do. Then we could actively participate in being the Watcher in a really interesting way. I think that'd be really cool.
Sure. I mean, although. The problem with voting is there's always going to be a lot of people.
Say no more.
The problem with voting. Well, no, this is the problem because this is the Jason Todd situation all over again. Which is like if the internet had a vote, what do we do? Which is why I prefer choose your own adventure books. Like
sure. But this would be like there would be a collective aspect to it, and a sense of chaos that anything could happen. It's like I think that would be kind of fascinating, and it really would speak to the kind of unknowable decisions made by beings far greater than we could ever comprehend. I think that'd be really interesting and fascinating.
Yeah, I mean it would be interesting to watch. It would be fun to do, and I along those lines I played the. I didn't play Bandersnatch. I hear that one is just crazy, but I did play the what's her name? Kimmy Schmidt, the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt game. And I did find all the endings because that's half the fun. I don't know if you ever watched the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, but they did.
I saw a couple of episodes from the early seasons. It had a lot of charm. I just never followed up.
Yeah, I mean it gets crazy as it goes. It is very much a surrealist sitcom, which I love. If you're a fan of Green Acres, you'll probably like The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. It's actually almost a cross between Green Acres and superheroes, is how I would describe it. And it's kind of enjoyable in that sense. But they had this big comeback special. Well, it wasn't a comeback special. It was like the final episode where they just had a choose your own adventure where you would pick different reels to watch in order, and you could, and then you could go back and watch other ones and different things. You could see all the different ways that the story could end, and it was funny, but it took that surrealism to another level. But it also had what's his name from Harry Potter in it, guy who played Harry Potter,
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe is in it, so that to me that's always fun. He's worth the price of admission.
Indeed.
But anyway, getting back to this show. Yeah, I mean, that's that. The thing is, and yes, the Watcher is us. But I also think the Watcher is us in that it's interesting because and this is jumping way ahead, when we get to that end scene where the Black Widow calls out the Watcher in a scene that, quite frankly, has been done in many ways, often by Howard the Duck, where the idea is it's real to me. It's been done by Deadpool too. So I know I'm fictional, but it's real to me. And you're all just sitting here watching it, and it's really disturbing that you're here. But at the same time, the Watcher gives his answer, which is, no, you mean everything to me. That these stories, your stories, I don't interfere because I need to have your stories. I need to know what your free will is.
That's in essence, I think, what the argument should be. It's like, hey, do you want your free will, or do you want me to do this? And then you'll know you don't have free will. You can't do whatever you want.
Well, it's the Superman conundrum. If Superman picked up the garbage, we would throw shit everywhere. Oh, sorry. Well, actually, bleep that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and actually, I don't know. Maybe I don't know when they're listening. If it's after 9, we're okay. You get one of those.
That's the beauty of podcasts. You can choose to watch it whenever you please.
Yes, But what I will say is, it's like, anytime you have that being who is omnipotent, who can interfere, you suddenly start asking why they don't interfere more. And that's always the thing. It's like, you know what? Maybe he doesn't interfere because it's not good for us for them to interfere. And it's not good for them to interfere. Because then you get into this whole thing where you're micromanaging, and then there is no joy to life. There's one of my favorite stories in the Secret Wars line from Secret Wars 2 is, I think it's Secret Wars 2 issue 2, when the Beyonder takes his human form, and he basically winds up taking over the entire universe and then the multiverse in that one moment. But then he realizes, okay, yeah, I control every single thing that happens in this universe now, but people are no longer people. My whole reason for coming here was because I found people fascinating. Because there's this, in that story, there's a hooker who he meets who gets him involved with gangsters, as happens. As happens to various godlike deities in the Marvel universe. But when he meets her again, she's now a waitress because she's trying to actually get her life together. She's off the drugs. She's trying to live a decent life. And he realizes when he's talking to her, she's not herself. She's not being herself. She's just responding to him because, oh, you're the Beyonder? Yes, whatever would make you happy. And he's like, no. And he gives her freedom. And she's just like, oh, man, no. After that happened, I realized I had to do something better with my life, and I'm doing something better with my life. And that's when he realizes, you know what? Yeah, I can control the universe, but there's no reason to. And I take away from the universe everything I'm trying to give it. And that's a recurring theme with the Beyonder, where in that series, where because of his omnipotence, he can do anything, upright into killing death at one point in the series. Spoilers for, 30-year-old series. And every time he does that, every time he uses his omnipotent power, he realizes, I didn't think this through very well. And of course, for the Watchers, they think it through. But getting back to the actual story, and why the Watcher breaks the oath, he's gathering together the Guardians of the Multiverse. Starting, of course, with Captain Carter. He then goes, because we saw that he got Doctor Strange the first one.
He was the first one, right?
Then he gets Captain Carter. He gets, does he get Gamora? No, he gets
Thor. Is next, right?
Gamora. I can't remember if it goes T'Challa, Killmonger, Gamora. I think Gamora is the last one because we get that. Not you, Stark. Which to me is the best part of the entire series. Not you, Stark. No, you do not get to be part of the multiverse Guardians. Although we see maybe that was kind of the point too at the end. But he gets Thor from the Party Thor universe.
Vegas!
Viva Las Vegas! That is because he was over in another universe at the time. Tristan was asking why they didn't bring in Peter Parker. And that's, of course, we're assuming that Peter Parker was still alive. We're assuming that he wasn't part of that zombie trap. There's going to be people who are going frame by frame. Was Peter Parker in the zombie trap?
That would be cool if he was.
Yes. But although that was a good scene too.
We didn't really get to see Zombie Cap and whatnot and actually fight. We got Zombie Scarlet Witch, but it would have been cool to get the other zombie Avengers involved. That would have been really cool.
It would have been very cool, but really, again, it was meant to be just a distraction. Right. Because everything in this is meant to be just a distraction. That as we're watching this show, we have this group of people who are told they are the guardians of the multiverse. But at the same time, if you've ever seen Legends of Tomorrow, where they make the point that you are the Legends, and it's like, well, no, actually, you were chosen because if I pulled you out of the timeline, it's going to have no effect on the timeline whatsoever. You're all meaningless, and you're all going to die eventually anyway. So.
You've heard of the Expendables, now hear of the Inconsequentials.
Yes, basically. But that's where we want. That's where we find ourselves in this, and it's it's an interesting thing when you're walking through it and you're observing it, because these characters, they are arguably heroes. Even Thor is a hero, but they're all bringing something to the table, and most interestingly, one is not chosen, which is Black Widow. But we later see that she was always part of the plan. And I've heard people break this down as basically the entire idea was they would get ready they would prepare for their big fight with Ultron, but that effectively the Watcher knew Party Thor would attract trouble, as they say. He knew that T'Challa would be the one guy who could do the sticky fingers move, which we already saw him do, to pull one of the stones off, because you only need one stone. And the Soul Stone, of course, powers the Infinity Crusher, which was what Ichi was. After they smelt the Infinity Gauntlet, that's what they build, is the Infinity Crusher, the device that's powered by a stone to destroy the other stones. But, of course, that leads us to the revelation that all stones are different, and it was designed to crush the stones in your universe.
Actually made me notice how Ultron's Infinity Stones are different than the MCU ones, because the MCU ones are more rough, while Ultron's are more smooth, like the comics.
Very good, Tristan. That's a great observation.
What was that now?
So in the MCU, the stones are all kind of rough hewn. They have facets and things like that. In the cartoon, they're all very rounded and smooth, just like in the comics. So, I think that some of them were a little less smooth than Tristan's remembering, although obviously the Reality Stone was definitely very rough hewn when it wasn't in its stone form, when it wasn't forced into a stone form. But, what was I saying? When the machine fails, and it is because that it was just slightly off, because the stones have to be precise in their workings. Now, this, of course, opens up that question of why can Ultron use the stones and they didn't work in Loki? And traditionally, you can't use the stones in another universe.
That's what we were led to believe.
Here's where it gets complex. This is some fan theory.
Mm-hmm.
They established that the stones can't be used together to create a thing in a given universe.
No, but the Tesseract wasn't able to be used on its own either, It wasn't attempted to be attempted.
Yeah. Well, the argument there is that is because where the time variance authority. So basically, it's like this: the time variance authority is outside of reality.
Okay.
It is in the microverse, or it is in some other place where time and space are not the same as they are in our reality. It's a dimension where these stones are powerless expressly because they are not in a reality anymore.
But wouldn't the properties of the behind-the-scenes area that the Watcher occupied have the same properties as the TVA, because they are sort of outside or at the nexus away from... Well,
again, no, that I think is the big misunderstanding, people. Because here's what I can say. I can only go by comics reality and what we've already seen in the MCU. What we've already seen in the MCU is the Watchers are a species. That there are many Watchers in many locations. And to me, that Watcher is the Watcher of a reality. Possibly Doctor Strange's reality, possibly not. There's entirely the possibility that that was a Watcher from a completely different reality. And that Watcher from that reality was destroyed along with everything else when Doctor Strange destroyed that universe.
Don't you think we would have gotten some indication pointing to another Watcher by now if that were the case? They would.
Well, we've seen other Watchers. We've seen. Oh, well, that's for season 2, when the other Watchers come to have the trial of Uatu, because that's going to happen because Uatu broke his oath, and it's going to be this question of, and that's when maybe we're going to get the Living Tribunal. Maybe we'll even get Jen Walters' She-Hulk, which would be amazing. You know, because they're going to say, you broke your vow. You know you're not allowed to do that. And he said, but he would have destroyed.
Yeah, we wouldn't be around here to have this conversation had I not done that. So, I mean, you know, it's kind of a moot point.
But this is the thing. So we will get the other, possibly at the start of season 2. It is going to be the trial of Uatu. It'll be what if Uatu would have put on trial. And that's where we are going to see this idea of the multiverse. And, you know, maybe even, you know, something that says, you know, maybe they'll even bring forth the Watcher who let Doctor Strange destroy his multiverse. The Watcher who said, I am not a god, and if I could punish you for this, I would. And the idea that it is a different Watcher. And that's the thing. It's like Rick and Morty. We always assume it's our Rick and Morty. We always assume it's our Watcher, but it could actually very easily be a different Watcher every time.
Yeah, but they showed us Watchers that didn't look like this. They showed us Watchers that were, you know, little tiny bald white men, you know?
Well, no, none of them were tiny. They were all very tall.
Well, fair enough. They look like giant midgets. You know you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's what Watchers look like, but Watchers changed according to the artist, because how Watchers are seen, it depends on how they're being perceived. It's the idea that, you know, so like sometimes they look like Richard Mall, and sometimes they look like giant baby heads, and sometimes they look like a what?
I have a question.
What's your question, Tristan?
If that is true, why do they all sound the same?
Well, they don't all sound the same. Well, because all the Watchers we've seen have been Uatu. That's the only Watcher we've heard talk. So it's a different Uatu in all of the different universes. But they are different Uatus. That's the idea. That's how it exists in the Marvel Universe, in the comics. And I think, because from what we see, like we see at the end of the Party Thor episode, that Watcher was surprised by Ultron coming. And the other Watcher is the Watcher, arguably from Ultron's home universe. And that's the thing. That's why he could see that Watcher. Because the Watcher is watching. And it is arguably the Watcher from that universe who then, at the end, sends Nat to another universe. What is your question, Tristan?
If they are all different Watchers from different universes, then how would that Watcher know to got all of those specific heroes?
Because they all have the ability to watch all the other multiverses. And the one that makes the choice to do this, the one that breaks his vow. Because arguably other Watchers aren't breaking their vow because they all can see what's going on. And it's not like they got like a gang of Watchers together to go beat down Ultron.
Right. So, but that's the other thing. Why is he only focusing on attacking one Watcher? Or
because he doesn't know. Because that's like the thing.
He found one, but he couldn't hear the other ones, or he couldn't feel the other ones. That's a little strange. No,
because he can only hear the Watcher from his universe. He can only.
But he traversed multiple universes with him during the fight.
And his Infinity Stones are only his Infinity Stones from his universe. So that's the thing. As expanded as Ultron is, he still can't conceive of the multiverse as it exists beyond seeing a bunch of mirrors in a TV room. So from his perspective, it's like a bunch of doorways in the same way that the Tesseract opens a doorway. And that's the idea. He can't conceive of infinite possibilities and infinite realities because he is still bound by the reality he was from. Now, we were talking about, like, why did the stone still have power in other universes? My take on it is that because he has a reality stone, the reality stone is altering his localized reality, allowing him to use individual stones in individual ways. So he can alter reality enough that in a close-quartered contract, in the same way that when Thanos had just the reality stone, you know, he could turn the whole world into bubbles or whatever he wanted. That's a lot of power in a localized area, but it's only in that localized area. And that's the idea. In that localized area, he could affect that reality with the other stones because he could say, in this area, this reality now attunes to my stones. That's the power of the reality stone. So unless you have a reality stone, these stones are completely powerless outside of their home dimension.
But it's almost like the chicken or the egg thing. Then why does the reality stone work? Because
it taps into something fundamental in the basics of the universe that cause things to have. It's this idea that
it's like the Higgs boson.
Well, yeah, the idea is that it is chaotic, but it causes other things to be ordered.
Right. Like the Higgs boson, it allows other particles to actually have mass, and it gives rise to the other particles, or allows the other rise. Well, that's great. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and that's why it is this. It has no form, but once it exists, it can let other things gain form. But without it, things cannot gain form, and everything would be that chaos. So it's basically, really, you could argue it's a chaos suck. It sucks the chaos out of the room so that things can coalesce into order, and then it is just always chaos until you can, like, put it into a container of some sort. You know, whether that be Jane Foster or an Infinity Gauntlet or a little box. You know, something to control the chaos that it's sucking out of the universe. Arguably, if you destroyed that stone and it didn't exist, or if there was not a stone to be the reality stone, there would be no reality. Everything would just be constantly shifting with thought and space and time. You know, nothing would have permanent form. And for what it's worth, everything has permanent form, but in a changing state because it moves across space. It moves through time. It is affected by the mind. You know, it is affected by souls. And in this way, everything has a structure because there is a reality to say this will be the localized reality. Which really means that if you wanted that machine to work, you don't take the soul stone, you take the reality stone. And then that machine would work.
Or you could use the reality stone to sort of, like, even smaller local area, localize just the point of contact between this machine and that stone, and make that little pocket of air or vacuum or reality just enough to make the stones work in their little bubble.
Well, exactly, but that's the idea. Is that's what it does. That's what the gauntlet can do. That's what, when it allows you to use them all at once. And it should be a point to note that at no point does Ultron ever use all the stones at once. He doesn't snap his fingers to wipe out the universe, ever. Because, first off, I think because he knows it's going to burn out all his circuits. He can do that, but it's going to destroy him. It would destroy him as well as everything else. And because he does not want to be destroyed, he is going to use the stones a bit more sparingly. And, but of course within that, then you just have this idea that then he goes to these other realities, and then by force of will, he's making the reality stone make him able to use his stones against the Watcher. And again, a Watcher from his own reality. So this will have effect on him. But the Watcher in that reality isn't going to step in, first off, because he can't interfere. And like I said, I think that's what we'll get in season 2, is we'll get those other Watchers, the other Uatus, saying, well, I did not interfere when he came into my universe because I cannot interfere. And I thought he could handle himself. You know, it's like, he looked like he was holding his own.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's going to be the moment, is when all the other Uatus or all the other universes say, but if he had failed, I would have risen. I would have stopped him too.
Yeah.
And all the Uatu's say, all of us agree. And then the other Watchers are going to say, but, and then the other Watchers, it's just going to take a few other Watchers to say.
It's easy to stand up and say, I am Spartacus when they already caught the guy. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Well, no, but the reality is that these are cosmic beings. And first off, I don't think the Watchers are ever supposed to go into another Watcher's universe. That's unsanitary, good sir. You don't bring your universe's goodies into mine. But once it happens, then all the other Watchers have to make a decision. What am I doing? I'm having a universal incursion from another universe. What's the protocol here? What's the Watcher of that universe doing? But here we have the other Watcher being pushed through with Ultron, so the other Watchers can say, well, I guess that Watcher's handling it. I can go look up what's happening, and they probably all did. They all said, whoa, quick, go, let me see the previous episode. What's going on here? What's happening with that Watcher and this Ultron? Because, many of them have seen that.
Yeah, then it's like, all right, your dog pooped on the street. I better watch you pick it up. Go pick up your dog poop,
What did you think about both the defeat of Ultron and the defeat of the Infinity Stones?
I didn't. It felt really rushed, and towards the end, it got so rushed that I was just like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing. Zola coming in there and being able to destroy him so easily was a little bit of a, they should. I wish we got a little bit of more of how he did it, or if he outsmarted him, or if there was just that little shred of humanity left in him that gave him that extra edge to beat the pure AI. I was waiting for that battle, the mental chess battle, and didn't really get much of that. And then on top of that, I was kind of waiting for Zola to go break bad. And what he is, and try to, but we didn't get that, and then we get
he does do that. That's exactly what happens.
Well, I guess he gets him back from T'Challa at the end, not
Killmonger, yeah,
from Killmonger at the end.
And that's the whole point, is that Killmonger was put there to betray them, and it was even suggested that Uatu takes Party Thor when he has an Ultron head, expressly so Killmonger can utilize the head to get the stones.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what he was doing there all along.
That's the idea. Yeah, it's that there was this plan, and that's of course what I want to say Scarlett Johansson, but what Black Widow calls him out on. This was all set up. This was all set up from the start. You meant to do this, and and did you eat popcorn when my world was destroyed? And that gives us this really little thing, and it is just like, what, you're going to send me back to the dead world where I am literally the only being left alive on it? And no, it's just, no, I'm going to send you to a world that lost their Black Widow. And literally sends her to the world where Loki where Hank Pym defeated the Avengers. So if we revisit that world as another aspect of the Guardians of the Multiverse next season, which I think we might. I think even next season is going to be a lot more interconnected. You
think we'll get Scarlett Johansson back?
Oh, no. I think they're going to keep this actress. I think the blood's a little bad on it. We might get Scarlett Johansson back, but why pay for Scarlett Johansson when you've already established another voice? To me, I kind of feel them establishing these other voices are so they can introduce other actors and actresses in these roles later. Because, not for nothing, like James Bond, they're eventually going to have to. There's a reason why these actors say, I don't really want to get back into that shape.
Yeah.
It's hard doing that. Yeah. And when I did it when I was 30, and for poor old Chris Evans, who started doing that as Johnny Storm a decade before he was Captain America, it's like, yeah, when I was Johnny Storm, that was easy. When I'm Captain America, it's a lot harder. And now, it's... I want to have a beer, is what Captain America says. I want to relax for a bit. I want to do a thing where I can play a character who's just a handsome guy, because I can keep my face handsome. That's easy. That's the easy part. It's all these other bits that I got to keep tucked in. I want to have a role where I get to wear sweaters, and that's what he did in Knives Out, I guess. I just want to wear sweaters the whole time. That's what he did. Because at a certain point, you just want to wear the damn sweater.
No. I like that they're teasing us with, like Captain Carter finding out that there's a world where Steve took the serum, and she's like, well, that sounds interesting. But then she does find, supposedly Steve still in the mech suit. Yeah,
and probably has some kind of infinity formula or other thing pumped into him to keep him relatively young. Because they would have had to, they might have just kept him on ice, but, probably kept him more active, and is probably, because there's, a new Rockstars did a breakdown of it and basically said that this looks like it was adapted from the original Hydra Stomper armor and is probably Venko's Titanium Man. Or the what's his name? The Gremlin's Titanium Man. Because the Gremlin was he was actually a midget or a dwarf or a little person super genius who was actually gamma irradiated as well. He was actually one of the Hulk's first villains. He was a Russian villain. He was called the Gremlin because he became super intelligent. And later they had him use the Titanium Man armor, but the Titanium Man armor was basically supposed to be the armor made of titanium, so it's stronger than iron. Punch, punch. And it was the 60s, Mozz. Don't overthink
All right.
It was the Silver Age, Mozz. Anyway.
Then we get that fight where they're fighting. Well, I thought it looked like they made him look like Galactus showing up in front of them, with the things coming out the side of his head, and he's all like giant, and everybody's,
because again, he takes that ethereal form.
Yeah.
Using, I guess, arguably the Soul Stone to give his little Pinocchio a soul.
Yeah. I really did like the battle at the end. It was, again, choreographed beautifully. And that battle with Doctor Strange putting the armor, the spiritual armor on everybody. And I thought the way that it degraded away with like the little words passing away with every hit was really kind of a cool touch.
Which we saw earlier when Doctor Strange fought himself, where he's got all the letters on his body because it's, only the witch who casts the runes can do the magic in this area, But then Ultron says, well, I'll kill you and that'll remove the spell. And it would have been great if he had told him there, you'll have a heart, if he had done that thing that he does in Infinity War, where he says you'll find that removing a dead man's spell is almost impossible. That would have been a great
which is
callback.
Interesting to me that being the sort of intellectual, carnivore that he is, that he wasn't interested in figuring out why magic worked or why physics or logic couldn't explain why it did. Like, that didn't drive him insane.
Oh, who? Doctor Strange?
No. Ultron.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he's just operating. I mean, basically, I feel like the whole thing of Ultron is when he gets a 404 era, he just clicks it away. It's like 404, just I don't care. That's the thing. I don't care. I'm just gonna blast it because he's got Tony Stark's personality to some extent, and it's like, if there are things I can't understand, I don't need to understand it.
I feel like as an AI, he would like strive to like, why is this a power I can't control? What is this? How can somebody? I need to understand this magic.
But see, that's the thing. You're assuming curiosity in an AI. An AI doesn't necessarily need curiosity. An AI arguably only needs problem solving. And problem solving doesn't necessarily relate to curiosity. And really, problem solving is bound by its own parameters. The idea in it throughout it is always just that there are parameters to his programming that's why he goes on his quest to quiet the universe.
Right. So that was all duty, not necessarily curiosity. So when he hears the Watcher, it's not curiosity. It's just, I'm not done. I thought I was done.
Yes. And, it's an interesting parallel because in Age of Ultron, he tells Tony he's confusing peace with quiet. But in this, it's like we actually get the idea that, that Ultron, when he says to Tony, you're confusing peace with quiet, it was because Ultron was confusing peace with quiet.
Or he was confusing peace for humans versus peace for me.
Well, yeah. I mean, arguably, yeah. If all of the, it's Bender's retirement plan. He says, what are you going to do, Bender? He says, well, I plan to turn my on-off switch to off. And that's his retirement plan, because he's a robot. Man. And it's like...
Yeah, but that's dark. My word.
Well, but it's Bender, so,
Sure.
That's the thing.
Even still, though, like, I'm just gonna die. I'm just gonna kill myself, Well, not necessarily in those terms, but like, I'm going to cease to be.
And actually, what's interesting is that, of course, when we first meet Bender, he is trying to kill himself. So that was his retirement plan is actually perfectly logical. But it's almost his acceptance of, I'm just going to lay down and die then. Because, like, when I had to kill myself, it's because I was so upset about what my bended girders were being used for, which was to create suicide booths, which is why he goes to the suicide booth. But now he has grown as a being, and he can say, no. When I'm ready to stop, I'll stop. I will just stop.
Which is exactly the thing he was railing against.
Well, I guess maybe
whoever walks into that booth has decided they've had enough, and it's time for them to stop. Right?
Yeah,
you don't have an on-off switch.
It's a more violent death, and also I imagine if he doesn't turn his switch to off, it's not actually his death. It's almost like just exposing himself to the pain of disassembly, because as we know, as long as his head can operate autonomously, you chop off his head, is fine. He's fine.
Right, but he's turning himself off, saying pending further intervention, he's never going to turn on again. He cannot turn himself back on, because you know what I mean.
Well, exactly.
You can only turn yourself off. Someone else
because he's done. Because if you're a robot and you exist to do a thing, and you're done, don't want to do that anymore. That's what those pods were for, man. Well, yes, but it's different. It's different for humans, because humans can't turn themselves off. And
that's why we had the pods. That's why we needed a Bender to make those pods, because we can't do it for ourselves.
Although then again, you also have that reality that in the future, apparently, no matter how long you've been dead, Ron Popeil has created the technology to allow your head to be brought back from the dead.
Oh, man, that Ron Popeil.
That's the problem. You have that super technology. Suddenly, so many things take on a very different meaning. And if you are a character like Ultron, who is a being of super technology, obviously, though all these things become really annoying because it's too much for your robot brain to handle. And I think that is the interesting aspect of him coming from the Mind Stone, which is, the order of sentience, and not the Soul Stone, which is the chaos of existence. And that is the difference, because that idea of an ordered AI of brains that go first A, then B, then C, versus the soul that somehow creates another letter that no one's ever heard of before to stick in the middle of it. That is something different. That is something that's not based on prior knowledge. And that is hard for him to deal with, because everything has a soul but him. And he's mad about it. And if everything's dead, then he can't see them, except he had the Soul Stone, so he would probably still see them. And they would never be quiet. They would never be quiet for that.
Eventually, he would have to destroy the Soul Stone. Oh,
well, eventually, you would have to turn his off switch to off. Problem solved.
There's your peace.
There's your quiet. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozzie?
Oh, no. It felt a bit rushed before, but now talking through it, I see it as like a poetic ending. Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it's like you could do an entire 2-hour movie on the last episode, not even counting the episode before it.
Right.
It's like every single one of these episodes could have been a 2-hour movie because we've seen 2-hour movies based around all of these episodes. You know, it's like, yeah, you know, we could do it, but we're basically working with you and knowing that you've seen a lot of this stuff. We're figuring you can put the pieces together. That's what If is for. It's for the super fans who can put the pieces together. And in this case, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun going through this universe, Mozz, and I'm glad you went through it with me.
To these universes.
Ah, yes, all the universes. Because there have
next?
been a few of
Is
them.
Hawkeye next?
Hawkeye is next, but I think you and I were going to review Dune first. I think that is the official plan.
Yes, that's the 22nd, right?
That is, yeah, I think it's the 22nd. We'll do that. And then just before then, and that's just before Hawkeye comes out, and then we will do Hawkeye, and the whole cycle starts anew.
Sounds fun. I can't wait.
Yes, and so, hey guys, you want to talk to us or any of the Capes and Lunatics family? Remember, you can always email us at capesandlunatics at gmail.com. You can call us and leave your thoughts at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And also head on down to our show notes, or don't, and just go to Linktree, that's linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics, where you can get all of our wonderful Capes and Lunatics merch. And of course, going down the show notes, you can find Amazon links, get Pod Life the book, all that stuff that all the kids today are raving about. And if they do any of that stuff, Mozz, or they just want to talk to you personally, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our Mozz and Paz once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, you can always follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet Stargirl Tuesday nights. Legend Tomorrow, I did a tweet on that the other night. And anything else I decide to do at Charlie Esser. That's CHARLIESSTR. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. All right. You delightful passengers on the ship to destinations exciting and new. You have come aboard as we were expecting you. Perhaps you found love in the stories you saw. Perhaps you did not. But next week, come back again as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arrgh.